Hi, I'm Emily. Welcome to episode 25 of Holding the Sticks, a hockey themed fiber arts podcast. Hi, everyone, and welcome to my craft room here in the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina. My name is Emily, and I can be found on Plurk, Twitter, and Instagram as Emily3022, and on Ravelry as Shanti Dragon. There's also an email address that will be in the ending credits of the show if you need to get in touch with me that way. Today is Monday, July 29th, 2013, and it is a beautiful summer day here in my neck of the woods. It's actually cooler than is typical this time of year. It's in the low 70s. I actually had to put a sweater on this morning. I could probably take it off now, but I thought y'all might want to see it. This is the Silk Side to Side Jacket by Sharon Sorkin, and I modified this pattern pretty much by just eliminating. There was a lace detail at the sleeve, bottom of the sleeve. It's a 3/4 sleeve, and at the bottom edge, and I didn't do that. I made this sweater in 2009 and had only been knitting about a year and a half or 2 years at that point, and was not very confident in my skills at picking up stitches and adding those borders, so I never did it. Instead, I put looks like a couple rows of single crochet at the bottom edges just to keep things straight. I'll stand up so you can see a little bit. It's a very plain cardigan, so you can see the bottom edge is just very straight. So, I'm proud of myself. I didn't forget to tell you what I'm wearing. Let's get into the pre-game report, my little chitter chat section. Mom's doing very well. I spoke to her the other day on the phone, and she was cooking herself up some dinner, and she's been running her own errands and getting her energy back, and it's just really nice to hear that she's doing so much better than she was. We're still waiting to hear on radiation treatments when those are going to start, and hopefully those will go smoothly when they do start. That'll be 6 weeks of treatments every day, and other than that, it looks like we're over the worst of it, so yay. It's been a super busy work week for me. This time of year, we get a lot of our summer residents returning. They usually return in June, and now they're really getting into the swing of relaxing and coming in to get their massages. So I've had several fully booked days in the past week, which is really nice, and it's really fun to be busy that way. It makes the time go a lot faster, and there's something good about feeling physically tired at the end of a work day. You just feel like you've accomplished something, so that's been really nice. Yesterday, my husband and I went, we do every Sunday, we have a little date night. We usually go to the frozen yogurt place and do our grocery shopping. I know, very romantic, right? Well, this Sunday we did something a little bit different, and I wanted to share it with you. One of my main pleasures in life is drinking tea. I absolutely love hot tea. I like it iced too, but what I really love is a nice cup of hot tea. I love black tea, I love green tea, I love white tea, I love rooibos, I love any kind of tea, pretty much. And the ones that have the fruity flavors to them, those are my very favorites. So anyway, we have a tea shop here, or not here, but in Boone where I work. It's called Josefa Antiquity, and it's been there for like a year, maybe a little more, and I hadn't gotten there. I know, right? What's wrong with me? So Fox and I finally went and had tea there last night. We just got tea for two. We tried a peach lychee. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. Most of my tea knowledge comes from reading, so I don't know how some of the words are supposed to sound. Sounds like my hockey knowledge too, a lot of it. But anyway, we got tea for two, and you can get cream and sugar if you want it. And Fox did want cream and sugar, but I just had mine straight. It was perfectly steeped. If you're not a tea fanatic, you might not know that certain flavors of tea are meant to be steeped different amounts of time and in different temperatures of water. They did everything just perfectly here, and the presentation was just gorgeous. Let me show you a picture real quick. So that's a real orchid, and we sat on the floor. They have the low tables with the pillows around, and then they have some normal higher tables too for people like me who really shouldn't be sitting on the floor. I have a little hip injury that makes it a little difficult to get up and down, but it just looks so charming to sit on the floor that I had to do it this time, and we really enjoyed it. It was nice and quiet. And then we came home after doing our grocery shopping, and then we went back out, and my husband volunteers with a local festival called Cyclovia here, and he is in charge of putting up all of the festival signs, the ones that you see alongside the road, advertising and stuff like that. So I went out with him about 10:30 last night, and it felt really clandestine. I was like, are the police going to get us? You know, or do you have permission to do this? Of course, everything was on the up and up, and he had permission and all of that. But driving around in the middle of the night, putting signs up, you know, on corners and in high traffic areas was really fun with my husband. And we drove from our little town here in Zionville um, all the way out to Fosco, which is between Boone and Banner Elk, and then all the way out to almost to Blowing Rock, and then all the way past the Boone town limits toward West Jefferson. So we covered a lot of area, and in the middle of it all, we both of us looked up at the exact same time and saw this huge shooting star go by, which is really cool because Fox actually proposed to me under the Leonids meteor shower back in December of 1997. So, you know, shooting stars are kind of special to us, and it was just fun. We felt like we had gone back to our younger years and we were out having an adventure and all of that. It was really nice. But anyway, that's it for my chatter today, I think, and we'll get right into the first period for the fiber arts. I know that's what most of you are here for. Welcome to the first period in the zone. This is my fiber arts section, and we'll start with some developing play. Those are the projects that I have on my needles right now. The first project on my needles is the Knit Sampler Afghan by Coats & Clark. You've been hearing about this all year, and you'll probably be hearing about it for the rest of the year. I completed the first half of the blanket last time, as you know, and I have continued on with the squares. I have finished the one I was working on last time. So this is square number 1. I'm using Red Heart Soft for this project. This is the teal colorway, and I'm using US size 8 5mm needles. This is square number 2. I like this one. My neighbor started mowing just as I was beginning to podcast, so you may or may not be able to hear him. I closed the windows so it's not too loud. But if you're wondering what that noise is, the exact moment I sat down and pressed record, he started up his mower, so you know how that works. Anyway, this is square number 2, and I really like this one, and you'll see the new color that I've introduced in this half of the Afghan. If you'll remember, I couldn't find the grape colorway when I went back to Michael's, so I wound up getting this leafy green colorway here. And it's a really nice jewel tone green. And this is the navy colorway, the background color, and then that pink is a berry. It's just called berry, and it's a little less bright than it's showing in there, but it's not too far off. So that's square number 2, and here is square number 3. Just finished this one yesterday. And there you go. That's it for that first project. Moving right along on that. I'm trying to do 3. I had started wanting to do 2 squares per month on this blanket, and then by the end of December I would have had the full blanket that I wanted. But as I get closer, this is a Christmas gift, and as I get closer I realize that I'm going to need time to finish this, so I need to do more than 2 squares per month for the rest of the next few months so that I have time to finish it before Christmas. I have never had to sew together all the squares or attach all the squares to each other, so that'll be a real learning process for me. And if any of you all have I don't know, tutorials or suggestions on the best way to do that, I'm thinking I'm going to crochet them all together. And then there's also, I believe, a crochet border on the pattern. We'll see. I'm sure I'll figure it out. I've gotten okay at seaming. I used to be terrible at seaming sweaters and things, but now I've gotten pretty good at it, so this shouldn't be terribly different, I wouldn't think. It's just going to be a lot of it. And I also have to figure out which color I should use for the seaming. If I do a crochet seaming, you can usually see it as a border between the 2 knitted squares. So I'm thinking maybe I'll use the navy blue for that, and then the outside border too. But what do you guys think? Let me know. The next pattern, or the next project I have been working on, pardon me, here, are those vanilla socks that I've been working on for a while. These are made with my hand spun Into the World, and it's a superwash merino in the Lavinia colorway, originally spun up for the Knittables podcast spin along. I did this, this is a Navajo ply, 3-ply, fingering weight yarn. I wound up with over 600 yards of it, so I'm going to have some left over. This is the second sock, so I am almost done. I'm at the ribbing right now. They never sit pretty for me, but you can get the general idea of what it's looking like. And then I think I've got about 1 inch of ribbing left, and then I'll be done with those. And I already have my next pair of socks lined up, but I'll tell you about those when I actually cast them on. Here's the finished sock. You can see this one a little bit better, I think. Love these colors. Into the World does a wonderful job with dyeing. So there's that. And if you wanted to see the hand spun yarn, there's the little cake. It's all messy now because it's been in my little bag here. Has to make its appearance every now and then. My mustache bag that Jenny Dream in Colors made for me. Thank you. It's getting used a lot. Third project that I have on my needles is my Freja mittens. And let me see. I'll show you what those are going to look like when they're done, and then I'll show you my progress. This, the Freja mittens are by Emmy Peterson, and this is what they will look like. There you are. That's what they will look like if I can do a good job with them. I love all the hearts. And I'm using Knit Picks palette yarn, and I don't remember the colorways because they were purchased so long ago. But it's a nice heathered, dark dark red, like a wine color. It's way more red than it's showing on the camera, but you know how it goes. It'll show better on the picture that I take of it, the in-progress picture, and then just the natural cream color. And here's what I have so far. There's the back. This is still the first mitten, so this is very slow going for me. But it takes a lot of concentration, this color work. I don't do a lot of color work, so it's a little bit out of my comfort zone. I'm actually really enjoying it though. And then there's the front of the mitten. And I've gotten to past the thumb hole here. And the colors are showing up much truer on the mitten itself. So super excited about that. I am using US size 1 2.25 millimeter needle for that, and it called for a little bit of a larger size, but that needle wasn't available when I cast it on. So far it seems to be fitting. I was afraid it would be a little too snug. I won't know for sure until I get up past the this part of my hand over the knuckles, and then I'll really know for sure if it's going to be comfortable or not. I may have to rip the whole thing out and start over if it's not. So the final project, and this is a new one that I just cast on yesterday, if you want to count my swatching, is I have cast on for my Rhinebeck sweater. Yay, I'm so excited. I'll find a picture of what it's going to look like when it's done. This is the Granville sweater, and it is by Fiona Ellis. I'm using hand spun yarn for this. This is the first hand spun sweater I've ever done, and it is the Knit Picks Wool of the Andes in the Merlot colorway that I spun up. It took me about a year to spin it all. It was about 2 pounds of it. This is what the front will look like. And show you the back too, because the back is super pretty. Put that for you here. That's what the back will look like. I love this. I actually won this pattern from the Apple Blossom and You podcast from Sarah SF, and I actually asked her for that pattern so that I could knit it with my hand spun yarn, and I'm super excited that's finally happening. I haven't gotten very far. I did my swatch yesterday, and it's been washed and dried, or washed and blocked really. And the pattern calls for a size 7 US needle, but I'm using a size 6 4mm needle. And I'll show you a skein of the yarn because it's my hand spun and I love it. And it has a more red tone to it than is showing on the screen. It's a very pretty reddish brown, very heathered. And I'll try and get some better pictures of that in either at the beginning or the end or something like that. As far as, I did actually cast on the sweater itself, if I can find it over here with all my things. Sorry for leaning out there. This is the front left, I think. I've gotten the little seat stitch bottom there, and I started on the cable and I've already messed it up, so I need to tink back a row and start again after I'm finished recording. Not a whole lot to see there obviously yet, but I'm hoping I have enough yarn. Surely with 2 pounds of fiber spun up I should have plenty of yarn to finish this, but it has that big hood. If I run out of yarn, then I can maybe do a collar of some kind instead of the hood, but hopefully I won't run out. So that is all of my developing play. I've got a little bit of Spinorama, and I'm excited about this too. I put my spinning wheel up for the week, and Rosie's taking a little vacation here in my craft room. She got a little tired and was squeaking, and don't worry, I oiled her up and everything. She's fine. Rosie is my Ashford Traveler spinning wheel, by the way. But I decided I wanted to do something a little bit different and go back to my roots, and I got my drop spindle out. I have several drop spindles. The first one my husband made for me out of scrap things that he found at Goodwill. He's really cool that way. I'll show you my other spindles at some point. But I think my very favorite spindle to spin on so far is my Trindle. If you're not familiar with Trindles, they are the coolest thing ever. You buy the shaft and the arms separately. And these are just beads at the end, and it makes the weight is on the outside, so it spins longer. And the arms come off. See? And you can put different arms on. So you can have one shaft and several different weights of arms to spin different weights of yarn. I think that's the coolest thing ever. But anyway, he's on Etsy, look up Trindles, or I think his Etsy shop is Trindle Man. I'm not positive, but if you look up Trindles, it'll pop right up. I'm spinning some old Miss Babs fiber that I've had in my stash forever. And I don't think it had a colorway, honestly. But this is a wool, some sort of wool and sea cell fiber. Super duper soft and really nice. It was so funny because you think of the spindle being like the beginner spinning tool, and I really had a hard time. It had been probably a year since I picked up a drop spindle, and I had a hard time starting up with the spinning on the spinning on the spindle again. I had a really hard time with it at first, but then as you can see, my singles got a lot more even over time as I've been spinning, so really excited about that. And I'm just going to do a 2-ply. I don't even know how much of the fiber I actually had left. I just split it into 2 parts and hope that it'll be close, but this is the rest of it that I'll have to spin on a different. I'll have to take that fiber off of that spindle and spin this on there and then do a 2-ply. And I don't think I've ever plied on a spindle. I could be wrong though. I know I've done the ply on the fly Navajo plying technique on a spindle, but I wanted to do it this way this time. Anyway, that is it for the Spinnerama. I don't have any She Shoots, She Scores this week, but hopefully eventually I will have a finished object to show you. So on to the Rec League. It is time for the Warm Hands Hoedown, y'all. For those of you who don't know, the Warm Hands Hoedown is my current craft along that's going on the Ravelry group, Holding the Sticks. If you would like to craft along with us, we are making mittens, gloves, fingerless mitts, any kind of hand warmer that has a thumb hole on it. You're welcome to double dip with other podcast knit-alongs or any kind of knit-alongs, crochet alongs, whichever alongs. You are welcome to knit or crochet, or if such a thing exists, you can weave the fabric and make mittens. It's just any kind of fiber arts that you want to do for this craft along. You need to finish your projects by September the 30th, 2013 for a chance to win a $25 Etsy gift certificate. You'll need to post your finished objects in the thread on the Holding the Sticks Ravelry group. And you can chatter and post your finished objects and your in-progress photos all in the same thread. I just use the random number generator till I land on one of the finished objects when I draw for the prize. So you must be a member to win. And the winner will have 1 month to contact me after they are announced on the podcast. And after that, if they don't contact me within that month, then they'll forfeit the prize and I'll have to draw a new prize winner. So that's a new little thing, just so y'all know. It makes it a lot easier for us podcasters to keep track of everything when we have a cutoff date that way. And nobody wants to chase down somebody to give them a prize. So that's the way it's going to work. And there was something else. Oh yes, I've already put this on the thread in Ravelry, but just to make sure everybody knows, if you post photos on the thread in Ravelry, I may use them on the podcast just for this Warm Hands Hoedown thread. If you don't want me to use your photo on the podcast, just put a note when you post your photo on that thread so that I won't use it on the podcast. I think it's fun to share what everybody's doing, as you saw this little intro into the craft along section here. Yeah, just let me know if you don't want me to use your photo. It's fine if you don't, but just let me know so I don't do the wrong thing. That is it for all of the fiber arts goodness today, and it's time to get into the second period. Are you ready to hit the training room? Because it's time. That's what the second period is, the training room where I talk about fitness, health, and self-care topics. So welcome to the training room. It's been a really great week for me. I hope y'all have had a nice week, those of you who are working on fitness goals. I hope that it's going well for you. My exciting things from this week are that I hit 200 miles run total on my Runkeeper app on my phone. Yay, that's really exciting. But the even more exciting thing is that I ran 2 miles without stopping for the first time this summer. And that felt so good. I just wanted to leap and hoot and holler and everything else all the way home after I managed to do it. The last part of my course is a long gradual, well, for around here it's gradual. It's kind of steep, but it's gradual uphill. And I just remember being at the bottom of that long uphill and looking up, up, up. It's about a half a mile from the bottom of that hill to the top of it, and just thinking, there's no way. There is no way I'm gonna make it to 2 miles. But then I said, no, you at least have to try. So I just kept going, and I slowed my pace a little when I lost control of my breathing. Those of you who run know that it's really important to keep control of your breathing. And I was losing control really fast because I was trying to keep a pace. I've got a goal pace that I'm going for. I was trying to get to that, but at the same time I wanted to make that 2 miles. That was like my main thing. And as I'm running up the road, I see my mailbox in the distance. That was my finish line, was my mailbox. And I'm like, I'm almost there. You can do it. You can do it. And I did it. It was awesome. And then I turned around and walked about a quarter mile down and back just to cool down. But yeah, I wanted to jump up and down and do the Rocky arms. I think my neighbors already think I'm crazy, so I guess I might as well have done it. Which just would have confirmed the obvious. But anyway, that was awesome, and I guess I probably got a little bit of a runner's high after that as well. But today I wanted to talk to you all, speaking of phone apps and hitting 200 miles on Runkeeper, I wanted to talk to you all a little bit about the limitations of cell phone GPS systems. Um, the GPS systems in your cell phone were really built more for driving. They work on a snapshot system. Instead of tracking your position constantly, in order to save on data and battery power and everything else on your phone, it takes a snapshot of your position every so often. I'm not sure how often it is. I'm sure it's several seconds. And then it does like a connect the dots kind of a thing in order to figure out the distance that you've gone. It's not the most accurate way to get distance. The distances that you get, and I have been rather suspicious of this for quite a while. The distances you get from your phone GPS are very rarely accurate. They can be sort of close, they can be way off. I run the same basic route most days when I run, and I started noticing pretty much right away that I could run to, there's a wagon wheel that was my goal for a long time, that somebody had a mailbox posted on a wagon wheel, and that was like my landmark. I would run to the wagon wheel and back, and one day my phone would say, oh, you ran 1.25 miles, and then the next time I would do it, it would say, oh, you ran 2 miles, and then the next day it would say you ran 1.5 miles, and I'm thinking, which one is it? Because that makes a big difference as far as your pace, how many miles per, or how many minutes per mile you're going. So as I get closer to the race that I'm getting ready to sign up for, I still need to do that. Y'all need to, get a wet noodle and lash me with it or something, because I still haven't signed up for it. September 8th, I'm going to be running a 5K race. And as I get closer to that, I really want to know what my pace is. Some races you actually will start the race in groups depending on your pace, and you want that to be somewhat accurate. So as I get closer to it, I'm starting to think it might be time to get a running GPS watch. I think that these are made by Garmin and Nike, and I'm sure there's some other ones as well. I know there's one that uses TomTom's GPS systems, but I'm not sure which is what or anything like that. I've been reading reviews and things like that. But the way those running watches work, it's just a watch, and it shows your distance and your pace, etc., etc. And some of them even have a heart monitor built in, which I would love, you know, with my old blood pressure issues and stuff, which blood pressure's still low, but I would still like to be able to keep track of that sort of thing. And the way those work is it continuously monitors where you are. The problem with phone GPSs and the snapshot system is that if you go behind a building, for example, or under an overpass, or in my case, behind a mountain, or if the weather's just weird and, you know, all different things can happen, and one of those little snapshots is off. I literally have had them because with Runkeeper you can go back and look at your map and see, you know, the route that you took. And I'll go back and look at my Runkeeper map after a run. I used to run at a track, and you would see this little oval like this, right? And the scribble around the oval going around and around and around. That was my route that I ran that day. And then all of a sudden, the line from my route would go all the way up here and then all the way back. And, you know, I would have actually run, because I could measure it on the track, I had actually run 3 miles, say. But Runkeeper thought I ran 8 because it thought I had run way out into the woods and come back because one snapshot was wrong. You know, and then it did the connect the dots thing. So that's why it's not the best thing for if you're trying to measure distance for running. Even for driving, I'm sure it's not the most accurate. But yeah, I think I'm ready to get one of those running watches. If any of you guys know anybody who uses one, or if you use one yourself and are happy with the one you have, let me know. They can be pricey. I'm hoping not to spend too much on it. I was really wanting to get some Haya interchangeables for my birthday this year, but I think I'm going to get the running watch instead because I'm really getting annoyed with the phone GPS. Part of it may be the location I live in the mountains. People in cities have trouble with them too. So, and I never knew that. I actually was just thinking, gosh, this is horrible. And then I did some research to find out about the whole snapshot thing. What I finally did for the route that I usually run, I had my husband drive me around the 3-mile route that I haven't run the whole 3 miles yet, but that's my goal, to get around this whole 3-mile loop. And I marked down the landmarks at, you know, different mile points. So every quarter of a mile I'd write down, you know, this is the street sign, this is the wagon wheel mailbox, you know, when I've passed this other street sign I've gone 2 miles, and then I know for sure because the odometer reading on a car is typically pretty good unless you've messed with the tire size and things like that, all that technical stuff. So yeah, I finally did that, so at least I know for sure that I actually did for real run 2 miles yesterday. And I was a little bit bummed because that 2-mile run, I did it in 31 minutes and 4 seconds or something like that, which put me over my goal pace. My goal pace is under 15 minutes per mile. So I was at like 15:30, which isn't too much to overcome, but I was still really, really psyched that I hit that 2-mile point. So that's enough of that jibber jabber, I guess. Let's get on to some hockey talk. If you are leaving me now, I hope you have a wonderful week and keep on making those mittens and gloves and fingerless mittens for the craft along. I can't wait to see your pictures on there. I'll see you next week. If you are hanging around for some hockey talk, then that'll start in just a second. Time to drop the puck for the third period and a little bit of hockey talk. Got a little bit of Hockey 101 today, a couple of minor penalties. I'm going through those. Believe it or not, after today we'll only have 8 minor penalties left. So our penalties for the day are kneeing and leaving the penalty bench too early. Kneeing I've actually heard called. That's a pretty common one. obviously, you can probably figure this one out. You're not allowed to make initial contact with your knee. So you can't go and hit somebody with your knee. It can be a minor penalty all the way up to a suspension, depending on how serious the hit was, if you injured your opponent, if they think you intended to do it, and all of this sort of thing. So it can range, if you knee somebody, it can range from anywhere from a minor penalty all the way up to a suspension. The next penalty is leaving the penalty box too early. I didn't even know this existed. I've never heard it called. I've never seen it happen, but it makes sense that it exists. If you get called for a penalty and you're sitting in the penalty box, you're not allowed to leave the penalty box until your penalty is over, unless it is the end of a period. I would think this would go without saying, but if you do hop off the penalty bench before your penalty time is up, then you will get an additional minor penalty. Who knew? They actually have a guy sitting in there with you in the penalty box who will keep track of the time and tell you when it's time to get up. So I can't imagine that this would happen at all, really. I guess, I don't know. But those are the two penalties for our Hockey 101 segment today. Just a tiny bit of Hurricanes chatter. The biggest thing that happened over the last week, as far as the Hurricanes go, is that they signed left wing forward Nathan Gerbe to a 1-year, 2-way contract, and he formerly was a Buffalo Sabre. He is, well, let me tell you first what the 2-way means in the 2-way contract. That means he can either play for one rate of pay for the Hurricanes at the NHL level, or at a lesser pay level for the AHL team, the Charlotte Checkers. So that's what the 2-way thing means in the contract. Nathan Gerbe, a little bit of trivia, he is the shortest player in the NHL. He is 5'5". He has quite a reputation for being a pest on the ice, so apparently he can get under opponents' skin pretty easily. He says in an interview that I read of his, he says that he feels like he needs to prove something to the Buffalo Sabres because he was really surprised that they didn't re-sign him. So that's usually a good thing, and players that feel like they have something to prove to their old teams typically play with a lot of fire. So I'm looking forward to see what he has to offer, and it'll be interesting because it seems that over the past couple of years the Hurricanes have really tried to get larger players and make a larger, like taller guys and everything. So it's interesting to me that they've signed this 5'5" fella. He's pretty good. He's had some injuries and things like that, so we'll see how he does. I think that's about it for this week. I hope I haven't gone on for too long. But until next time, may all of your fiber arts projects and your favorite hockey teams stay out of the penalty box. Bye-bye.